let's call the meeting to order. The Wednesday, September 8th meeting of the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee for the town of Corte Madera. Let's see, call the order. If we can have a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Cheryl, can you do, Cynthia, can you do roll call? No, someone's got a phone call.
Not to worry, guys.
Do you want, Bob, do you want me to call the names of our panelists?
If you have the list, I'm actually not at home. I'm at my daughter's house, so I just have an agenda. If you have a list of the members, that'd be great if you can call it.
I'll see if I remember everyone. Tony Garza.
Present.
Mark Madden.
Here.
David McPherson.
Here.
Kirby Bartlett.
Here.
Bob Ravazio.
Here.
Tom Knopfsinger. He's not present. And myself, Cheryl Anjanati.
Okay. Thank you, Cheryl, for doing that. I appreciate it. First item of business, the minutes of the June 24th meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes?
There's a spelling correction on page 2 of,
Okay.
It's toward the bottom of the page. The name of the represent the owner of Best Western property in town. It's spelled, it's in the text, it says Garrett Grayloff, Graloff, and it's Grialou, I believe it's pronounced Grialou.
Okay. Thank you. Any other corrections or amendments to the minutes? Okay, can we have a motion to approve the minutes then?
Go ahead and move to approve the minutes from the last meeting with Cheryl's changes.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, the minutes are approved. Okay, now we're going to try to see if we can do open time for the public regarding non-agenda items. This is a chance for the public to speak about items that are not on the agenda. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak? It looks like Matthew Hartzell has raised his hand. And we're going to ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. And we have to figure out how to make him be able to speak. Does anybody know how to do that?
Matthew will just unmute himself.
Okay. Matthew, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and thank you. I'm Matthew Hartzell, Director of Planning and Research at WTB TAM, and I wanted to speak regarding the recent repaving project, specifically of the 3/4 mile stretch of Redwood Highway that's over by the marsh and the village there on the east side of 101 between Warnham Drive and San Clemente Drive. According to the town's bicycle and pedestrian plan, there were supposed to be striped Class 2 bike lanes all along this stretch of Redwood Highway. However, when the street was paved this summer, those lanes were not striped. I was given the explanation that there's already a parallel Class 1 multi-use path that goes along that route, and that is true. And in fact, it's a wonderful multi-use path, and it was just recently repaved. I've noticed that. So thank you for doing that. But I just want to remind you that Class 2 bike lanes and Class 1 multi-use paths are complementary. They're not redundant. So they serve different users. Class 1 multi-use paths serve novice cyclists. They serve dog walkers. They serve pedestrians. They serve families and children, slow speed users. Whereas Class 2 bike lanes are on-road facilities. They serve faster speed cyclists. It's good to keep faster speed and slower speed bike cyclists separated from each other so that they don't pose hazard or threat to each traffic safety hazards. So I have sent a letter with a feasibility study showing that it's actually possible to stripe the lanes without doing any curb reconstruction on the section that's 4 lanes. And on the section that's 2 lanes, you just need to add 3 to 16 inches of additional slurry seal, and you would be able to have space for class 2 lanes as required by the bike plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we're not allowed to address items that are not on the agenda, but thank you for your comments. Is there any other member of the public who would like to speak? David Bell has his hand raised up. David, if you can unmute yourself, go ahead. Thank you.
Hello, thank you. David Bell, sound check.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. Yeah, some kind of the same subject, but I brought it to the BPAC committee before just for your awareness. I'd be happy to do a count because I live in Echo, and now that I'm working from home, I think there must be 100+ kids that use the shortcut off of, I guess it's technically Paradise at the intersection of Harbor and Paradise, cut down Harbor, down Echo, and then there's a gravel pathway at the end of Echo that cuts over to the bike path, especially now that there's construction there. And I suspect even when that pathway is done around the corner of technically what, I guess that's San Clemente, many of these kids for future, it's passed down. They're still going to be using the shortcut down Echo, going each way. And now there's a sign directing all cyclists to cut through Echo while there's construction at the corner. Thank you, just FYSA for the committee.
Okay, thank you, David. Appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Isn't there enough, just remind me, I'm sorry, I don't have the agenda in front of me, but I believe DPW is going to give us an update on that subject as part of the agenda. Am I incorrect? Correct?
I didn't see that on the agenda.
Okay, all right, I thought there was.
Okay, any other comments? I don't see any other raised hands. So thank you for the input. We appreciate it. Let's move ahead to committee member reports. Are there any members of the BPAC who have anything they would like to report? Kirby, go.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Jared. Jared was very responsive on a couple of things that I suggested to him. One of which he knows is a concern of mine, which was when there's construction, the construction crews like to put their work ahead signs right in the bike lanes. And I pointed out one to Jared, and the very next day he sent me a nice email and it was taken care of. So A, appreciate that. And B, the work on Paradise Drive that's currently going on. I had expressed in a previous meeting concerns about seeing some plans for Paradise Drive in more detail, and expressed a comment on something that wasn't actually in the construction plans. I thought it was a concern, and I think it was outside the scope of construction. And that suggestion appears to me, from watching the construction, the median section was actually cut back because it impeded car flow and congestion. And I was just appreciative of seeing the suggestion I made implemented. But here's the other thing I want to make is if we had seen all those detailed plans in our regular meetings, we could have this discussion in an open forum. And that's actually something I would like to encourage, is that we seem to skip every other meeting, the meetings get canceled, and we don't always see the detailed plans in the BPAC meeting. And the only way I was able to see those plans was by requesting them. So if we could see those and then have an open discussion the way I think we all want that to happen, is something I would encourage.
Okay.
In future BPAC meetings.
Thank you, Kirby, for that input. Appreciate it. Is there any other committee member who has something to report?
Similar to Kirby, I wanted to acknowledge RJ, Jared, and the other members of the DPW. Just once again, there was a minor issue on the street at the bottom of Corte Madera Avenue, just up the street from Stefano's Pizza, where a homeowner backing out of her carport was putting bicyclists and other motor vehicles coming down the hill in danger because she couldn't see looking up the street because of parking. Well, it just seems to me in years past, DPW might have put up a no parking sign and left it at that. But what this current crew did is they went out, didn't repave it, but they leveled it all off. They showed exactly where there would be parking spaces. They essentially created a solution that should last for the next 20 years rather than just putting up a no parking sign that might have been ignored. And it just once again showed me that, you know, these are real pros that we're dealing with, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. Cheryl, looks like you have something to report as well.
Well, just a comment or question. Some months ago, maybe it was a year ago, we had, I think Jared inquired at the DMV about repairing the sidewalk, the path along the north side of the DMV along Warnham. And they, as I recall, their response was they don't have it in this year's budget, but they would look into it in the next year. Well, we're in that next year, so I would just like to remind Jared and have DPW follow up on that.
Okay. Thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate it. Any other reports from committee members? Okay, then we will move on to the next agenda item. Oh boy, we get to decide a revised regular BPAC meeting date again. I realized after the last meeting, you know, we ended up moving to like a second or third choice that we had. And I realized, unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago, I have another commitment on the second Wednesday of every month. I'm sorry, I'm on a lot of committees for the council and I got a lot of commitments. So Jared and Rebecca and I met for a while and went through all the potential ideas and possibilities. And Jared, you want to let everybody know where we're coming out?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, so basically we kind of huddled and re-reviewed the calendar and what makes sense with regards to other commitments, planning commissions and town council meetings. It seemed like every day there was something happening around town at some point in the evenings. So what we arrived on is the second Monday of odd months as being our next best opportunity and for BPAC meetings. Wanted to kind of float that out there to the committee, see if anybody has any snags with that that proposed time. It would still be at the 6 o'clock hour, but would it kind of,
No, I thought, maybe just Rebecca and I talked. We would actually need to start at 6:30 because
you're right.
I have another meeting from 5 to 6 on Mondays, second Monday of every month.
You're right.
We're almost always done by 6 or 6:15. So I can make it 6:30. So we wanted to move it. And I think that's when the flood board started, was at 6:30. And I think you said that was okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I misspoke.
Okay.
Yeah, so second Monday of odd months, 6:30 start. So there would be a few changes to do that. But from a staff perspective, the consistency there would be that it is basically in tune with the flood board meeting, which is a every other month meeting on the second Monday at 6:30. So from our perspective, it really simplifies that, and having staff, public works staff present for those two meetings makes that consistent. So we also came up with a backup option. as that orange square you might see on the screen, the first Thursday. But I think we're hoping for the second Monday if that works for the committee.
Yeah, because there's town council meetings on the first Tuesday. And it's a big workload on DPW. Okay, so that is the proposal. And again, I apologize because we spent so much time on this last time and we just had forgot about that one other meeting. Is that a potential go? For
Make it work for
everybody?
me.
Fine with me.
Okay,
That works for me.
okay. Cheryl, do you still have your hand up?
Oh,
No, okay.
Matthew still has his hand up too.
Matthew, your hand is up.
There
Did
we
you
go.
want to, okay, his hand is down, okay.
we just have, those dates were November 8th and then there was January and, well, never mind, I can look at a calendar.
Okay, thank you. And again, I apologize for the confusion. Hopefully this will stick for at least another month. We'll see. Do my best. Okay, let's move to discussion items. 8A, temporary signage, give cyclists 3 feet, locations, verbiage, and cost. Jared, I think this is yours.
Yep. All right, thank you. So let me make sure that my screen is sharing. Can you guys see the main screen there?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so this is something that had been briefly discussed and requested from committee member to include on this this round's discussion here. So what we have here are 3 locations identified for some temporary signage past 3 feet men to live really on a temporary basis. So maybe a couple times a year, floated out there for a matter of weeks and then put it up and take it down. These locations are often used for various different signage purposes, advertising for special events and that sort of stuff. So we want to respect that, but I think these 3 locations are what came to mind as previously installed sign frames. And I'll quickly touch on them. Redwood Avenue across from Mankey Park is the bottom left. You can see the sign frame, the banner frame there is empty. The upper right is along Madera Boulevard at the west exit entrance to Town Center. And the third opportunity is at San Clemente at Redwood Highway intersection. So these 3 proposed locations are representative of a large kind of swath of town. Tried to space them out a little bit, try to capture various different traveling public for the notifications along those points. And then as far as we looked in, we got a couple quotes for costing, and looking at this signage here, the past 3 foot min, it's pretty simple, black and white. It's not overly fancy. It's pretty easy to see in a quick passing by. So I think part of this discussion is going to be, we talk about the locations that I've proposed. We talk about the message being proposed. I think the cost speaks for itself. It's pretty doable. That's not much. And then another item that could be helpful would be any sort of volunteer partnership with a community member, anybody that wants to kind of take this under their wing as an assistance to Public Works. It would just be to put this out and take it down a couple times a year. We're happy to get the ball rolling. But it would be nice to have somebody, if anybody's interested, to help out with the deployment of those signs and pulling them down, that sort of thing. So I mean, pretty basic and simple with regards to the conversation revolving around these signs. And I'd love to hear some feedback from the committee and from the public regarding the locations. And
Yeah, okay, so first, let's do questions, and then we'll see if there's any feedback from the public, and then we can get into comments from the committee.
So
I
Jared,
have
go
a
ahead,
question.
Bob.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, Dave.
Oh, Jared, I had provided your office with 2 or 3 photos of other creative signage that has been used throughout the United States for sharing, passing with 3 feet. Was there a reason that those were discarded?
So we just proceeded with grabbing the most simplified version to start the conversation with. By no means has that selection been formalized or finalized. Yeah, I did receive those. We do still have them. And those can easily be used in lieu of the past 3-foot minimum sign, if that's preferred.
They might, first of all, and I would also volunteer to take those down and put them up, since it was essentially something that I had wanted to do. But also just because the banners are 48 by 72, the simple signage that you have there might be fine for one location. Maybe we'll have a different banner for one of the other locations, depending on what would reproduce well into 48 by 72.
Sure. Okay.
Are there other questions from committee members? Looks like, is that Kirby? Hand up?
Yeah, how often do these, so we have set locations for signs. How often do signs get put up and taken down routinely or traditionally?
Signage in general? Are you
At these
asking?
locations, there's frames for signage at these locations. How often are they used? How often are they new signs put up? I'm just curious.
I don't know the answer to that. I'd be speculating, and just seeing that that I've recognized those unsigned or unfilled quite a bit. I think it's more often that they're open than not.
Is there a process by which someone goes through to put up a sign? Is there like putting the letters up on the, I don't know what that thing is called, on
The message board?
the message board? Is there a procedure by which people could put up a sign there?
I'll have to look into that. I bet there is.
I can address that.
Oh, yeah.
I believe it actually goes to the town council. The town council approves these signs. These are, I was gonna say, and these are usually used. I'm sorry, does that answer your question, Kirby?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Then I'll just keep going then, because I had a question, because these are typically used by community groups, like the Community Foundation used them to promote their concert series. Swim Club uses them to promote swimming. We've had fundraising groups from the school promote their annual fundraiser. So how would that work? When they're approved, they would go in and take these signs down, and then they would have to be put back up again when those signs came down, because those are typically put up for like, a set period of time, like 2 weeks or 4 weeks or something like that, and then they would come down, and then these would go back up.
I was under the impression that these signs would be just that temporary nature as well. So they go up for a couple weeks or 4 weeks or 3, however long we decide, and then, or however long, it is decided, and then they come back down. And they're down most of the year, but then they pop back up a couple times a year.
Okay. I'm pretty sure that's approved by the council. It's usually a consent calendar item. It's never a big discussion point or anything. It's just,
Sure.
they sign off on it. Are there other questions from committee members?
Right.
Cheryl, your hand up?
My recollection is that there are other sites that have the sign frame at the end of the east end of Warrenham and Brentwood Highway. I believe there's one there, or at least I think there's signage gets put up there. Also, I think at Tamalpais and Paradise, I think there might be, I'm not sure. But anyway, it occurred to me that if we have 3 signs, and of course it would have to, Well, I'm getting into comment. I'm sorry now.
Okay,
Yeah, but I have a suggestion. So
okay, well, we'll come back to that. And are there any other questions from the committee members? Sorry, I'm such a stickler for this stuff, but I've been at too many Brown Act meetings where they pounded this into us.
I appreciate your keeping us diligent.
Are there any other questions? Okay, hearing none, then I'm going to open it up to the public for the public to comment on this. Is there any member of the public who wishes to comment on this? I don't see any hands up on that, so we will close it to public and we'll bring it back to the committee for comments. And I bet Cheryl wants to jump right in.
yeah. Well, my point is that we have more than 3 locations. Jared has recommended 3 locations, but there are more than 3 locations. And I think it would be most effective to rotate the signs through all the locations in town, because they all have visibility. They all are high traffic points. We just have to coordinate with other community groups that use those signs.
Yeah,
Okay,
just to respond real briefly on that one, I did notice the end of Warnham right there at the Sandra Market Trail entrance, and my initial thought or take was it was, you know, near a half mile or less from the other one proposed on the east side of the town center at Madera as well. But we can you know, make more banners and put them up on all of them if that's the desire. The one you were talking about over at Paradise in San Clemente in Tamalpais was the one that I had previously shown on the screen as well, regarding the bottom right-hand corner
That's one down
image.
there,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Any additional comments or direction? Yes, Tony?
So
I think.
my suggestion would
Or
be.
Dave, go
that-
ahead.
That these, the signage goes up for 3 weeks towards the end of summer before school begins, then comes down after school is in session, and then goes back up again in the late spring. You know, we start to get a lot more recreational cyclists, including the people training for the AIDS ride out on our streets. So that would be a total of, let's say, 6 weeks each year. And so we would know when they're going to go up and when they're going to come down for those two prime seasons, if you will.
Okay. I can tell you, I know from, as I said, approving these, yeah, if you have a specific time frame you want them in, and then you give some lead time, then you can lock it in and get in there before anybody else does. So if you've got weeks you think we should get, then we should specifically ask for those time frames. So the next one would be in the spring. it
Yeah,
sounds like,
I would
right?
say the last week of August and first 2 weeks of September would be good timing from my perspective. And then I would say maybe the same kind of thing last week of May, first 2 weeks of June.
That makes sense to me. Is everybody else okay with that?
Yeah.
We provide that as direction?
Yeah.
Okay. Kirby, looks like your
I
hand
guess
was up.
somebody else was up before me. I think.
Tony, was that you?
Yeah.
Yeah. First off, I think these locations are great, and Cheryl, I think it's a great idea of rotating and stuff. And I'm not sure if this would make it more confusing or not, but I think perhaps maybe rotating a different graphic in there as well. I have this feeling that more education is still needed for those who, you know, cycling is just not on their radar. Other than, you know, just seeing the past 3 foot. I think maybe an alternate graphic should be rotated in as well. Again, though, that might make things more difficult, but that's my thought.
Okay, thank you. Well, it means more money for openers. Kirby,
Yeah.
there you go.
So I do like the idea of rotating them. I think people do get sign fatigue. The same sign is there long enough, they stop seeing it, but seeing something new pop up, you notice it. So I like that suggestion. I think the temporaries, and as a result, I think actually having these as temporary signs will, in the long run, be more effective. And for those of you that, I think this is a great solution. I know we've talked about this sign for a number of times throughout BPAC, and you know me as the kind of the vocal opposition to it. But I think this is a great solution. Look, I recognize that Bob, I'm sitting here talking with Bob Bravazio, as the chairman, who got, you know, everyone's had an accident with a bicycle, but you had a pretty severe one. And so I recognize this 3 feet law is probably something near and dear to you. But I think
Yes, it is.
I think this is a great solution. And thank you for everyone's time and effort and patience.
Okay. Any further input?
I just had one additional comment to make, and Jared has the 2 other graphics or 3 other graphics. And I think if the BPAC can trust Jared and I to kind of look at those 2 and decide which of those would also reproduce, as well as the simple one that has been proposed tonight. And then as far as cost, my experience with ordering these banners is they're the same cost. They're $130 to $175 a piece, regardless of which graphic the company is going to reproduce. So I think we can have 3 separate signs that all say the same thing, but using different messaging that's proven to be effective without increasing the cost.
Okay. Thank you. Jared, you're taking a lot of notes, I see, so I think you're getting all this down. And I'm assuming then, so what we will do is this will come back to us at some point, and you'll let us know when we're getting them ready to put them up in May, I guess, right? Sounds like that's David's proposed schedule. And that will also give us time to make sure we get it on the agenda for the town council and get the town council to approve it, because I'm pretty sure they're going to have to approve this as well and sign off on it. But the sooner we get it in, the better, because springtime does tend to be a time when these are used, as I said, because there's school fundraising activities and things like that. So, okay. Any further comments on this? Jared, you got enough direction?
I do. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for your input on that. Let's move to the Parisi Madera pet crossing. Wow. It's called the Parisi crossing now, huh?
Yeah, so
Geez, David, wow, you're moving up.
David is on the line with us, so yeah, he will be jumping in. I'm gonna kind of kick it off and give everybody a real quick recapture of where this came from, what's going on here. So basically the Best Western Hotel project site, you can see on the image there, is doing a major remodel, new construction basically of their site. And as part of that, we have an opportunity to really upgrade some pedestrian crossing facilities nearby. And it's really part of the planning commission process. But what would really help the planning commission in their decision making is to hear from the BPAC. If there's any general consensus coming from the BPAC, that information passed over to them would be very helpful. Otherwise, any input that we can collect amongst the group would be greatly appreciated for their decision making purposes. I wanted to also touch on the improvements that they're making to Tamil Vista as part of their project. This is not what we're deciding on. This is what they're proposing to do as part of the project. And it's landscape improvements, fronting improvements, sidewalk improvements all along the east side of Tamil Vista Boulevard that borders their property. And this will come into the discussion in a little bit, but I did want to mention this as it's going to attract a lot more foot traffic along here. And okay, so I'll pass it over to David, but we have basically 2 options, one that we've previously discussed and one that we're going to hear some more on tonight.
Great, thanks, Jared. If you could enable sharing, that'd be great. Appreciate that.
Sure. I'm trying. I don't have that capability. Bob, do you as co-host? I do have the slides, David, if.
Oh,
if
great.
we can't
Then why
get
don't you
to-
pull up the 2A from previously?
Okay. Let me,
Super duper. Thank you.
yeah, let me go back into sharing my screen.
Great.
Shoot. Wrong screen. My apologies. All right, is that working?
Great, fantastic. Good evening, everybody. If you recall, the last time we presented this, we showed some options that would improve access directly between the hotel and the town center. So we were asked to look at some potential mid-block connections, and we had one option plus a slight derivation of that. And this is it here. So this is option 2A, which would provide a mid-block crossing right between, again, the hotel and town center and vice versa. It would meet all design standards as far as sight distance and whatnot, provide a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, enable vehicular turns in and out of the town center and in and out of the hotel. This option 2A would actually restrict, however, left turns out of the former TD Ameritrade site. So option 2B, which here will pop up here, very slight derivation, would allow the folks who are leaving that site to exit via the hotel driveway and take a left turn on Madera Boulevard. We heard a lot of input about this option, pros and cons. Number one, of course, it would definitely be the most direct route for pedestrians between the north and south sides of the roadway. And no matter what is provided here, that there's still going to be some demand for that route directly across the street. Some of the negatives that this BPAC and others brought up is that it certainly restricts left turns out somewhat of town center. Today, folks can actually kind of make a two-stage left turn by going into the two-way left turn lane and then enter Madera Boulevard. And as well as it's very close to the Temple Vista intersection, about 150 feet away. So that's very redundant, very closely spaced intersections. We alluded to an option 1, which we just described just very briefly at a very high level. And we've come back tonight to talk to you about that option. So if you could change to that slide. So we've developed, further refined this option 1 that we've been thinking about, which would actually just emphasize pedestrian crossings at the Madera Boulevard, Temple Vista, Council Crest intersection. A few things about this. What we are showing is a curb bulb, really extending the curb on the southeast corner of the intersection. And a number of reasons for this. First off is to really reduce the length of the crosswalk at the intersection and to decrease the exposure of potential pedestrians. You'll notice that what this does, or what this would do, is eliminate the free right turn from northbound Madera Boulevard onto eastbound Madera Boulevard. This is a four-way intersection, or four-legged intersection. That movement, out of all the 12 movements, is the only movement that is not controlled with a stop sign today. So under this scheme, it would be. As a matter of fact, right turners would not be allowed to cross the bikeway ahead of the intersection, but instead it'd be more traditional in that bicyclists would be able to ride straight across on Madera onto Temple Vista, and right turners would need to yield to them. So that is one aspect of this intersection or under this design. Going over to the hotel site, what you'll notice is that we are continuing to show or propose an extension of the curb a little bit to the south, eliminating the parking where you see in the background of those two vehicles. This would allow extending a stop bar for vehicles coming out of the hotel to the south to encourage and enable additional sight lines for them to enter the street. We're also showing a sidewalk that would come from the site, curve around to the west, encouraging pedestrians to travel west along the sidewalk. Between the sidewalk and the curb, the new curb could be plantings, a barrier, or even potentially a sign that says use crosswalk and points to the right or to the west at the reconfigured intersection. Let me see, what else can I say? Again, also on the median island on Madera Boulevard, it'd just be slightly reconfigured, but very slightly, to allow a true pedestrian refuge area in the middle of the median, with a slight skew as shown here, so that pedestrians crossing either from north to south would be forced to look at oncoming traffic somewhat, as well as in the opposite direction. Back to that curb bulb out on the southeast corner, there is potential for landscaping in the zones between the extended sidewalk or special paving in that area as well. It'd be very important under this scheme because we know that the desire of many pedestrians would be to go straight across the street. It's gonna be very important to provide signage, wayfinding signs and whatnot to really encourage pedestrians who are going from the hotel to the town center to use that crosswalk. And I think we can do that with good plantings or barriers or signs. And also from the south side to the north side, or by that curb ramp by town center, to say, hey, use a crosswalk, just walk 100 feet to the west and use the crosswalk at that point. As Jared alluded to earlier, the hotel is providing a pedestrian connection and improvements along Temple Vista Boulevard. So with their use of wayfinding signs internally to their site, certainly we could encourage more pedestrians to use the sidewalk on Temple Vista and then cross at this crosswalk as shown here. And then last but not least, I think this would blend in pretty well with the recent Madera Boulevard and Temple Vista Boulevard improvements for both pedestrians going north-south as well as cyclists going from south to north. So this is kind of circling back and talking, kind of presenting to you this option one, which would eliminate the free right turn in Pork Chop Island and tighten up the intersection a bit as shown in this diagram. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Okay, thank you, David. So I can just feel all the comments ready to come out, but we're going to hold off on that. And we're just going to do questions first. So any questions first off for staff? David has his hand up.
David, did I hear you to suggest that there would be a pedestrian barrier effectively that would require a pedestrian to sort of climb over a fence if they were trying to make a beeline from the hotel to the town center?
Well, I guess one, if I would suggest where that, Jared, if you can move that arrow just a little bit to the north, right, just on this other side of the sidewalk, south of the sidewalk, we'd probably put a sign that just says, for pedestrians walking from north to south, it would say use crosswalk and it would point to the right. If a pedestrian wanted to hurdle it, they certainly could. Or, obviously if someone came from the driveway, they could walk straight across the street. They'd be able to do that, right? Our intent here would be to encourage pedestrians as much as we possibly can to use the crosswalk through barriers, wayfinding signs and whatnot. But the fact of the matter is there still would be a driveway open at the hotel, at the previous TD Ameritrade site, and at town center. So there's nothing that we can do barricade those, right? So the intent is to really do as much as we can with signage and whatnot to encourage pedestrians to use the crosswalk.
But are you saying from an aesthetic standpoint, you would prefer not to have like a metal barrier that actually requires somebody to climb over it?
Oh, no, I think that'd be fine with or steel cables or something, just on the south side of the sidewalk. Yeah. Or really good, good landscaping. So could be a combination.
My other question really is about semi trucks or large delivery trucks proceeding north and then turning around that bulb out. You're comfortable with that radius?
Yes, we are. We've tested it against different truck types, and we're able to model that to make sure it would work. Actually, we had it tighter earlier, and then we pulled it back until there's a good margin of safety to provide access for different vehicle types.
Thank you. Any other members of the BPAC have questions?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, Cheryl.
David, does this eliminate the east-west crosswalk on the north end of the intersection?
No, it's just not showing. We're showing what's called a viewport, same viewport as that was showing in option 2A and 2B. So if we were able to pan this down and we'd see the crosswalk, we'd be retained.
Anything else, Cheryl? No? Okay. Anyone else have any questions for staff on this? I just had one. Jared, didn't we talk about a roundabout at that intersection at one point? Is that dead? Or would be dead if we did this?
No, these improvements would not preclude
Okay.
a future roundabout being in this place. Actually, the roundabout would still fit. There would be some modifications, but nothing overly large to where the roundabout's not a possibility anymore.
As a matter of fact, our designer who put this together, said that the curb bulb on the southeast corner would be very similar to what we have in a roundabout, because the center of the roundabout would have to shift to the northwest.
Okay.
So it's actually would not preclude it whatsoever.
Thank you. Cheryl, your hand is still up. Have your questions been answered? Cheryl?
I'm waiting for comment.
Okay. Okay. Are there any more questions from the BPAC? I just had one more. David, where are you coming out? Do you have a preference on either of these two options?
I was asked that earlier, and they both have different advantages and disadvantages, right? The previous option that we showed you, if you can share that, Jared, on 2A, I think would be advantageous for those pedestrians exclusively traveling between the hotel and town center. I do think there's some advantages there because I think most of them would use this crosswalk with a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. We know there's some disadvantages with turning movements. You can't make two-stage turns as you currently can. But option one, I think, would serve a greater audience. And that is not only when we encourage more users who are traveling between the hotel and town center, vice versa, but also just a general traveling public, north and south along Temple, Vista, and Madera. And the hotel assures us they'll do their part in providing wayfinding and trying to encourage pedestrians to use the Temple Vista right of way. And then also, I think for cyclists and for the entire Temple Vista corridor, this could be an improvement instead of having to cross free right turns. So there's pros and cons for both. And, I think option one has some distinct advantages just for the greater public.
Thank you, David. Any other questions from BPAC? No? Okay.
Yes.
You have a question. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, just, David, the two options really aren't, if we had a bundle of money, they really aren't mutually exclusive. I mean, you could put the the direct crosswalk and then also have the bulb out on the southeast corner, right?
Yes, you could. And then also, you know, somebody alluded to earlier about the roundabout. If you did a roundabout in the future, I wouldn't do both. I would do, you know, the roundabout would actually push the crosswalk on the east side of the intersection further to the east a bit with splitter islands. So while they're not mutually exclusive, if you were to segue in a number of years to a roundabout, you probably want to start with option one. That makes sense.
Thank you. Any further questions from the BPAC? Okay, if not, then we will open this up to the public for comments. I would ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. It looks like Matthew Hartzell has a hand up. I guess you unmute yourself and go ahead, Matthew.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, hi, yes, I just want to, representing WTB TAM, express strong support for option 1 and strong disapproval of option 2. I think option 1 is the clear winner here. As David just said, it will serve a much bigger audience, a much more, many greater number of people. I think eliminating that free right turn lane in there is really important. If you had the mid-block option 2, you'd still have the free right turn lane. You could have people getting ready to get on the freeway, accelerating and run into pedestrians. I think just if people at the hotel want to walk to the town center, that's wonderful. I hope that the hotel encourages them to do so. But I think those people are probably going to be willing, if they're already willing to walk a few extra meters to get to the safe crosswalk. So highly support option 1. Thank you. It looks great. I hope we see this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public wish to speak? Okay, I don't see anyone has a hand up, so we're going to close public comment and we will bring it back to the BPAC for what I'm sure will be some comments. And it looks like David, you had your hand up first, so go ahead.
So as most everyone knows, I was a longtime proponent of the roundabout at that intersection. And I would go with option number 1 with a strong recommendation that the hotel do the barriers and wayfinding signage that strongly encourages the hotel guests from making a beeline. I'm always reminded of Cindy Winter used to say consistently, you know, that pedestrians, given an option, will choose the shortest distance between A and B, and that's what they're going to do. And that's what, of course, the hotel guests have been doing for many years. I've watched it, you know, many times. But I think option number 1 is the better option, and we'll just hope to encourage the hotel guests to use it. And I think overall the town benefits most from option number 1.
Okay, thank you, David. Cheryl, looks like your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yes. I'm a little concerned that we're kind of looking at things very piecemeal, and I'd almost like to see a presentation of all the options, and then we can think about what we eventually might want, whether, I don't know if that's a roundabout, there's obviously sentiment against that, but and look at all the problems at in this area, because this doesn't address cars that are making this right turn here. It's a very sweeping turn and they barely stop. And there's no lighting at that corner. So I think the only street light is in the opposite corner, the southwest. So, so while I think option 1 addresses some part of the problem, it doesn't address all the problems here, and I'd like to see a more comprehensive look at that. And otherwise, I think the fact that it does leave options open for a roundabout or for additional treatment. I think that's a good thing. And that's all I want to say.
Okay. Thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate it. Any other comments from BPAC members? Any further input on these two options? Anybody want to jump in? It looks like Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I also, like Dave, are in favor of option one, in part because it admits the possibility or the better possibility of a roundabout there.
Okay. Thank you. Kirby.
I would lean towards option one, but also would like to quote Cindy Winter and say people will choose the shortest path. So maybe some bushes and signage, but I think we need to be cognizant of people might want to just cross the street right there in the middle. I like option one because it does slow down people going from Madera Boulevard around the corner, because you're really trying to accelerate to get on the freeway.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Just one or question. When will this be presented to the Planning Commission for their decision?
I'll jump in there. So I was just on the phone with our planning and building director this afternoon, and there hasn't been, or I haven't heard of a date, a specific date, but he was hoping that information from tonight's BPAC meeting could be used in the traffic analysis that's being prepared as part of the CEQA study for this whole development that's going in. So there are a few pieces that are lining up after tonight's BPAC meeting for this, but I do not know exactly when the Planning Commission will be held. My guess is as soon as the applicant can get all of the information put together and compiled for the submission, but that's just speculating.
Mark, is your hand up again?
If it is, it's wrong. No, I'm done.
Okay.
Mine is.
Oh, Cheryl. Okay, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yes, the previous submission by the property owner of the motel, the issue there was a elliptical roundabout along Madera, and I'm wondering if that's off the table, or because that provided, I think, for better turning options for people in and out of town center, in and out of the hotel, and it also created a barrier for the pedestrians who wanted to go straight across. And I think it also is a traffic calming feature, because people really do come off the freeway and they're still 50, 60 miles an hour is their kind of set point in their mind. So it would be traffic calming.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, then I'll just chime in. I was actually more of, everyone else is quoting Cindy Winter. That was my first thought too. I just keep thinking of her saying how pedestrians always take the shortest route. And I've seen so many people running across Madera, when I leave the town center there, that I just know it's going to happen. But I agree with everyone. I think option one is better. It's safer. I just think we need to do a really, really good job of keeping pedestrians from shortcutting it and running to the town center, because I do think it's going to be important for the town center and the hotel to have traffic between those two businesses. And option one sounds like the safest way to do it. We just got to make sure people don't take the shortcut and run across Madera, because that's not going to result in good outcomes. Okay, Jared, David, is that sufficient? Good input?
Very good input. Yeah,
Thank you.
it's good for me.
Great, thank you. Then we'll move on to item 8C, bike tool workstations. Jared, I think this is you as well.
It is. Okay. Yeah, so the bike tool workstation conversation was a recent immersion via the Community Foundation. Bob Bundy brought this to our attention as something the Community Foundation it has interest in supporting. So we jumped on it to get it on the agenda for tonight and wanted to get BPAC's acute attention and feedback regarding some locations that this could happen. And that's kind of the focus of what we're interested as Public Works to determine. We're all about helping out with installing these. It's not a large process. It's pouring a little pad of concrete and bolting these things down. And with the generous Community Foundation assistance to help fund the procurement, I think it's not a heavy lift for these to be realized. Just a quick little introduction of these. It's an outdoor all-in-one workstation where it just has a few tools, few of the necessary repair tools on a braided steel cable, and you can grab at it and use whatever you need to fix a quick little mechanical that you have, or maybe you just need to make an adjustment to your seat height or something. It's all here, everything you need. That even has a floor pump built in case you need that. You don't want to labor over a little mini pump or use a CO2. So that's a quick description of the apparatus, and now into some possible locations. Now I've taken the liberty, discussed it with RJ to try to identify 2 general areas where we feel these may be best used. So we're going to try to hope to keep with these 2 general areas, but if the BPAC has strong desire for a different location in general, then I'm all ears. But within the general location of Mankey Park and Corte Madera Square, I've highlighted 4 options that I think may be good spots from a feasibility of installation, a visibility to nearby bike routes, just ease of use, ease of access, that sort of thing. So top to bottom here, site 1 is at the bus stop on the westbound Tamalpais or Redwood Avenue side of the road. Site 2 is just across the street from that at the other bus stop. Site 3 is adjacent to the Mankey Park gazebo. And we might want to think about how that correlates with any events that are held there. And then site 4 along the Montecito path, fronting over there, Montecito Drive, anywhere along there really. So that's a few locations that wanted to get some BPAC feedback on if any of those particularly are desired. And then the other general area would be the Bay Trail along and bordering San Clemente Drive. So along there, I think there's a few good opportunities for a workstation to find its location there. Top to bottom, site 1 is at the corner, the north end of that San Clemente strip, where near the intersection of the Redwood Highway Class 1 multi-use path. Site 2 and site 3 are kind of midway along the length of San Clemente Drive, and site 2 is near a drinking fountain, a little park bench, and a shaded trellis there. Might make a nice amenity to accompany a workstation. Site 3 is adjacent to the dirt connector, which will future be a paved Class 1 connector between Echo and the Bay Trail. So right there at that intersection is a proposed alternate location for this stretch. And site 4 is the existing paver patio or plaza at the connection of the Bay Trail with our new widened sidewalk at San Clemente and Paradise Drive traffic signal at that intersection. So that was quite a bit of options to present there, but I guess I'd like to hear any questions regarding the applicability, the feasibility of putting one in, and then preferred spots.
Okay, thank you. Questions, first off from the BPAC. David, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
I'd like to know if Bob Bundy or anybody from DPW has approached the town center or the village about cost sharing and location as well.
I can speak on behalf of DPW. We have not approached the village or town center regarding location or cost sharing.
Any other questions? Looks like Cheryl has a question.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you felt constrained to have one unit on the west side and one unit on the east side, or if there was consideration to having two locations on one side of the highway.
We were just trying to get it spread around to two popular, highly traveled cyclist routes. There's no specific requirement that both need to be opposite sides, but that was, that's up for discussion.
Thank you. Kirby, you're next, it looks like. Questions?
Yeah, can you show us that image of what this looks like? I'm just want to see how obvious it is that this is a bike repair station. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mark, your hand is up.
Yeah, what's the cost per unit?
Jared, do you?
Yeah, sorry. It's about $1,000 for a unit, roughly. And then there are features that you can add on for $100 to $200 to $300 for additional add-on amenities. But that's
Yeah. Speaking of features, is there any provision for lighting?
I did not see any provisions for lighting. That would have to be a separate addition to that spot, which is a good point and maybe should be considered for when determining the location to have it nearby existing lighting.
That's yeah, or maybe solar light, but whatever. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. Tony, did I see your hand up? Yeah, go ahead. Tony? Can't hear you.
Okay, sorry, my screen moved when I went to unmute. Question, is it a whole different animal considering one of these closer to the park, playground area and such? I just see a lot of opportunity. I mean, town center, park, and the school blacktop, that's just a breeding ground for learning how to bicycle, and all these little moments come up when I wish I had some tools with me, or slight adjustments here and there.
That's a great point. We had not looked at the town park, but we certainly can.
Okay, any other questions from the BPAC? I just had one. Jared, can you put up the Menke Park map again? Did you consider anything along Corte Madera Avenue?
Yeah,
Is there a location up there that's possible?
it would have to be at this corner. I did start to look and was just thinking of keeping it off of, a 4-foot wide sidewalk. We just don't have a room there. So this could be a spot here. I bet you're thinking of cyclist visibility coming down and up Corte Madera Avenue, huh?
Absolutely. It's just such a high traffic area for bicyclists. I mean, I think the idea is to actually get these things used.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, if not, then we will go to the public and see if there are any comments. We're open for public comment. Matthew Hartzell.
Sorry,
You there?
sorry, my hand was still raised from before. I don't have a comment now.
Oh, you don't have any comment?
I support,
Okay.
it looks great. I think the town park would also make sense as a location for one of these.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I don't see any other member of the public who wishes to speak on this, so then I will bring it back to the BPAC for comments. And Kirby, your hand was up first.
Okay. My two suggestions on where to put this are, one, that it should be in a highly visible, high traffic area, simply because you don't decide often where your bike's going to break down. And when you do, you're going to want to like, wait, where was that place that had the bike repair? How far do I have to walk? You're going to ride past it or drive past it a bunch of times, so you'll know where it is. But if it's hiding in a unseen location, a low traffic area, or under a tree where you wouldn't see it, you won't remember, hey, oh, that bike repair thing is right over there. And then also, wherever we put it, hopefully there's some adequate space for somebody to park themselves and their bike there for 10 minutes to fix their bike, such that they're not in the way of other traffic. So those are my two suggestions: highly visible and space that's not in the way.
Great, thank you. David, your hand is up as well.
So first, really appreciate Bob Bundy and the Community Foundation for promoting this idea after I think Bob saw the one out Blackie's pasture in Tiburon, which is fairly well used. And Bob, you anticipated exactly my thought on the Mankey Park location. Number 4 is a non-starter. That's kind of where people dump stolen bikes, and it's not visible at all because of the landscaping. 3 would be get in the way of people using a Piccolo Pavilion. 2 would get in the way of people at the bus stop, as would 1. However, the corner directly across from Zinn's Wine Bar, where the signage is, that would be seen by, on the weekends, 500 to 1,000 cyclists who will do exactly what Kirby said. They'll remember it. I also wanted to comment that the image that was shown of that bike repair stand there, I think there are 4 manufacturers who make them, and they're all substantially the same in terms of how they hold the bike, the tools that are supplied, and some are slightly better at identifying exactly what it is with signage and just the layout, so that the photograph that's shown may not necessarily be the one that the Community Foundation or DPW ultimately chooses. And as Jared indicated, the costs run from about $800 to about $1,200 or $1,400, depending on the accessories and the bike pump included. And then with respect to the second location on the bay side of Corte Madera, I think that the most highly visible spot would be number 4. I think that would probably be seen by more cyclists than the others, although 2 is a good location as well. And then my final comment would be that Town Park is really good location as well. Maybe we should get these 2 on the bay side and the mountain side of Corte Madera installed, and then 6 months down the road look to raise the additional grand to install one at Town Park.
Okay, thank you, David. Cheryl, your hand is up.
Yeah, my one concern I have is the model that was shown has it looks like it's a bar that I assume holds the frame, and just would worry that someone would walk into that if it's not far enough off the sidewalk. So we really need to be mindful of that. Secondly, I'm not, I think of the sites that you've designated along the Bayside are very close to a bike shop. And I think it's almost redundant to have it there. And they're also all kind of on a straightaway. So I think they would get less, they're less visible. I would suggest putting it at the end of Warnham, where Warnham intersects Redwood Highway. And that's right where people coming from Sandra Marker, going east would see it, people going north to either San Rafael or the ferry. And then of course, people going south would get it, would have access to it. I think that's a better location than any of those along, I guess it's San Clemente there.
Okay.
Otherwise,
Thank you,
and
Cheryl.
I do think that we have more spots than just two, and I certainly would be willing to help fundraise and contribute to providing at least one, maybe two more.
Thank you, Cheryl. Kirby, your hand is up.
Yeah, one thing I would echo in support of what Cheryl said, if you just did a pass the hat, I bet you there's people who would chip in to get a third one. But the other point I want to make is, which Cheryl actually made a really good point about there being a bike shop right there. Like if your bike breaks down and the bike shop's right there, you're just going to go right in there. But that bike shop isn't open 24/7. And I know that because I go there and it's not always open when I want to go. But so that's one point I would make as a guy who lives on the Bayside. And so the other thing I'd like to make, this is kind of a joke though, you're going to put the Boy Scouts Eagle Project out of business. This is the easiest Eagle project for a Boy Scout. And as my son, who got an Eagle project by building a massive, big storage shed at Joe Wagner Field, who put like weekends and weekends in building this thing. And then I see some kid gets an Eagle project by putting up a little post and a little bike repair stand. I'm like, oh man, like he just got the easiest Eagle Scout project done. So I'm kind of glad in a way that we're putting this easy Eagle Scout project out of business. So thank you.
Thank you for that unique perspective. Anyone else from BPAC have comments on this? If not, then I will jump in and just, my only comment really is to kind of echo what David said about the location near Menke Park. If you can put that slide up again, Jared, for 1 second. Yeah, I just know that Corte Madera corridor, I mean, my goal would be for these things to be visible and to get used. And anything that's along that corridor is going to get seen and it's going to get used. He's right, location 4 and location 3, no one's even going to see it. Location 2, back when I was riding, you're going downhill there and you're going fast and you're not going to see it. So I think if there is a way to figure out some kind of location up along Corte Madera Avenue that's still safe for pedestrians and works, I think we're going to create a location that gets a lot of visibility and a lot of use by a lot of people, because there's a ton of bikers that go by, and they're gonna, the fact that you can just stop there and put air in your tires easily and not use a hand pump, I mean, it's like, I think it's huge for bikers. So thank you. Cheryl, looks like your hand is up
just
again.
A quick comment, just looking at that satellite photo there's a number of parking spaces that are free. And I would suggest maybe we use a parking space right on Corte Madera Avenue. That would be the most visible. And I think this merits that. I don't, just a suggestion.
Thank you. Any other comments or feedback from BPAC on this item? Okay. Thank you all for the insightful comments. Jared, I think that gives you something to work with and gives us something to talk to Bob about.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, project updates. Paradise Drive sidewalk. A large project, to say the least,
It is a large project.
and
But I
looking
will,
great, by the way. So,
yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's almost complete. What you have seen out there is the sidewalk between Harbor Drive and Seawolf Passage completed. That widened sidewalk on the westbound direction of Paradise Drive, the northern side of the roadway, is widened and curb and gutters in. So that section is done, and we got it in time for school to open, so students could safely traverse this portion here with their new widened sidewalk. What happened was that we had our pavement project kind of getting shuffled right into this one. And what's going on is we had the contractor pour the curb and gutter for the portion of sidewalk that has not been completed between San Clemente Drive and Harbor. But we did want to get that work completed, the curb and gutter, because there is an elevation difference. You can see it in the image on the upper portion of the screen. And there's a steep ramp there that they had to conform out. But what we're prioritizing here is getting new pavement as part of our pavement project on this entire fronting widened sidewalk here. And so the sidewalk portion between San Clemente and Harbor has been put on hold. The new pavement is going to be installed by the end of the month in front of Nugget, basically conforming up the new curb and gutter work for the widened sidewalk. And then once the pavement has been completed, the remaining sidewalk work, which you can just see here in this image, is just pouring new sidewalk here, will be completed for that last section between San Clemente Drive and Harbor. So once they get going on that, it should be relatively smooth sailing and quick. There is a new fence that needs to be built. There's a few new features that will be incorporated as part of that work as well. But mid-October is kind of our rough estimation of when we expect it to be final, and that includes new pavement up to the elevated widened sidewalk through there. And construction hours. I've recycled some parts of this slide, are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. just as a reminder there. And you may have experienced some delays. Likely you have if you've traveled this area through this project, and we've been trying to get in front of communicating that. We expected there to be some slowdowns as a result of this construction project. We had to take a lane in order to do this work. And as a result, there has been a little slow driving, which is appreciated. The contractor appreciates that, but the surrounding community, I'm sure, doesn't as much. But it is all for the betterment of the project. And I'm happy to report that once we have the sidewalk poured come mid-October, the lanes will be back open to 2 lanes in each direction, free flow. So at that point, we're hoping that the queues and delays will go back to as they were before, which was minimal. So that's a quick little update on that one. I'm happy to answer any specific questions to the best of my knowledge regarding that construction project.
Did we lose him?
Did we lose Bob?
We lost our chairman. I'll ask the question. So this sidewalk that we see in this little section, that will be paved last, is what you said, as I heard.
Paved.
The cement. Sorry, the cement.
Yeah. The cement will be placed. Yes, that is correct. That is the last step.
And the two lanes right there, where one of them's closed and one's open, when will it become two lanes? It'll be after that cement, the sidewalk is cemented?
So before that side, okay. Before I speak, yes, that is the answer. We have to have this lane closed in order to get access to place the
Got it.
concrete.
Okay, thanks.
Jared, the number 1 lane is spec'd to have sharrows, is that correct?
I think it's number 2, the lane closest to the sidewalk and the curb and gutter is the
Got it.
sharrowed lane. So yes, that is part of a request we heard, and we are going to follow through that it make sure it gets implemented. That sharrow process is actually tied, it's my understanding it's tied to the pavement, which is a different project than the sidewalk. Albeit at the end of the day, it's all going to look like it was done one project, nice and uniform together. But I do mention that because the pavement is part of a larger network of work. And generally what happens is they'll go through the whole project with the pavement, and then they'll come through the whole project with the striping. So there may be a little bit, I'm saying weeks, between when that lane is reopened and those sharrows go down.
Thank you.
Hey, Bob's back.
I'm back.
We made a lot of decisions while you were gone. Thanks.
Oh, good. I'm sure they were good ones. Sorry, I lost internet service. I'm at my daughter's house in Bolinas, and for some reason the internet crashed.
I think we all asked our questions, and it's probably now time for public comment.
Okay. Is there any member of the public who has questions about this? I don't see any, so then we can bring it back to BPAC. You guys already went through your questions on this, so was there any other updates that we had to go through, Jared, or?
I just updated on, I don't know if you heard the entire update spiel, but I basically recapped the sidewalk completion between San Clemente, but no, there are no other project updates.
Okay, thank you. Then we will move on to future agenda items. Are there any suggestions for future agenda items?
I think we're at now the committee member can comment on this.
Oh, okay.
Because, yeah.
Yeah, were there any comments?
Yeah, I again
I can only
wanted
see one person, which is you, so.
I'm the one with the comment. Again, I wanted to thank Jared for this. Look, it's a small price to pay. Traffic might be moving a little bit slower, but I think we can all see, especially at this point, even though it's not done, we as, like I live on the east side, we can see this is going to be better, right? Even if it's not done, we can see that wide sidewalk and go, all right, like this is about time. We all knew we needed this. And again, thank you for the suggestion I made in our one-on-one was you can kind of see it in the, I think you have something to do with it, Jared, is because I made the comment that the median should be pushed back. Yeah, right there. That median, what my suggestion was to push that back a few feet because it created, this is actually a car problem, not a pedestrian or bicycle problem. But as somebody who almost drives over that every day, it was pushed back a few feet, and it's going to make traffic flow much safer. And thank you for doing that. And I actually told somebody that, hey, I'm on BPAC and I suggested that and they did that. And then I'm getting people to thank me now. So because you did something, I'm getting credit for it. So thank you for that.
I do have to pass that one along to my colleague, Chris. He's the project manager, and I simply just voiced the concern and passed the torch over. So I can't take too much credit, but I'm glad it was followed through with and
yeah,
it got realized.
There's an entire neighborhood that now appreciates that.
Hey, Kirby, take the credit if they're giving it to you, man. Believe me. Take
We
it.
get so little credit, right?
Absolutely, take it. Anybody else have comments on this or input? Okay, I don't hear anybody, so I think we're done with project updates then. And are there anyone who has future agenda items they want to bring up? And I can no longer see anybody
Oh,
else.
all
You
right,
could
so
just
Bob,
jump in.
Bob, I've got my hand up. 3 items I would request be placed on the agenda for next meeting. The first one is really important to me, and that is that, you know, the town council has approved about $250,000 or so, I can't remember the exact number, to fund the study and public outreach for the final extension of the multi-use path from westward, going all the way down towards Marin Montessori. And what I'd like to have placed on the agenda is a discussion with the BPAC to rename that final portion of the project. The current name is a complicated technical name that has to do with sea rise and whatnot. And I don't think anyone in the public will understand what's actually being considered if we keep that name. So I'd like to have the BPAC discuss potentially naming the project something that tells the public exactly what it is, which is an extension of the multi-use path from westward to Marin Montessori. And hopefully that name would help get more of the public involved in determining, you know, which side of the road on Paradise the multi-use path will be placed on. The second agenda item I'd like to just bring back to see if there's an update is the sidewalk repair that was mentioned by Cheryl near the DMV. See if there's been any progress in the next couple of months on that. And then the final item that I think deserves revisiting is that question that WTB Tam brought up about whether or not the specifications for a Class 2 bike lane on Redwood Highway was eliminated for reasons that were never brought to the attention of BPAC. I do remember that in addition to that great repaving of the Class 1 multi-use path, that there was enough space to have a Class 2 striped path on Redwood Highway. But then the final project did not include that, and it's not clear to me why that was. So that'd be great if Public Works could address that at the next BPAC.
Okay, thank you. It looks like Cheryl has her hand up as well.
David articulated the items that I was concerned about.
Okay. Thank you. I don't see any other hands up for future agenda items. So let's see, with that, I think we are done and we can adjourn. So thank you again all for your input and your participation. I really appreciated another fine BPAC meeting. Jared, thank you for all your work. Oh, and Jared, can I tell them what I know
Yeah, sure.
about your future? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I just want to let everybody on BPAC know, Jared unfortunately has taken another job. He's going to be the Assistant Director of Public Works for the city of Belmont. And he's going to be moving on and we're going to be losing him, which I'm really sad about, but I do wish him nothing but good luck and you know, a great time at your next job. But we're really going to miss you. You've really helped things along here in Corte Madera. You've really helped us on the BPAC, and I am, for one, really going to miss working with you on this because you've been super helpful and just really articulate, and your initiatives have been great. So thank you so much, Jared, for all your time and energy that you put in. You really helped us along here.
Yeah,
Thank you very much,
Jared.
Bob. Thank you guys. Yeah, I
We'll
appreciate
miss
that.
you.
Yeah.
I'll miss you guys. You're my favorite BPAC.
Hey, I'll take it.
Gotta take them when you can get them.
Absolutely. I learned that years ago doing this. Yep. Someone gives you a compliment, jump on it. Jared,
Thank
best
you.
of luck to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys very much.
Good luck.
Okay, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, see you again soon. Thanks.